Badger, the founder of EnglishAnyone.com, back for another live video here on YouTube. Today, it actually should be a pretty short video, but I will hang around. So let's just put this quick phrasal verb up for people to hang. To hang around just means to stay like after something is done. So if you have a meeting or something and some people are hanging around afterwards so you can speak or do something like that, to hang around. Let me know if the sound is coming in okay. I've adjusted the volume a little bit, but I can turn it up if it's still not doing very well. But let me know. But hopefully it should be coming in okay, and let's get started. So this should actually be, as I mentioned, a pretty short video. I was giving a presentation yesterday at a friend of mine's English school, and he was talking about kind of how to help people learn, and so I was giving a presentation about how I teach and also introducing Frederick to some of his students. Nice to see you there. It looks like we got the chat working all right. All right, Salima, Fernanda, Lucas, Alberto, nice to see everybody there. And Ebtism, hopefully I'm pronouncing that, or maybe, I don't know if that's your first or last name. Let me know if I'm pronouncing anything incorrectly. But while I was giving this presentation, one of the people there was a person, this is a woman who lived in the United States for a couple of years, and she has a master's in TESOL. Let's just put it up here. So this is helping people learn English, and she lived in the United States and got the master's there. She's actually Japanese, but she was visiting at the school, and it was really great to speak with her. And so after I was explaining about how people learning and how I teach, she was telling me about some interesting brain research that some people she knows are doing right now. And so one of the interesting things, if you saw the thumbnail for this video, the researchers were looking at basically what happens inside your brain. So what's going on inside your brain this is a pretty bad picture of a brain here, but it's supposed to be your brain. There you go. There's my lovely art. So that's your eye and a nose down here. And inside your brain, so what's happening inside your brain while you're trying to speak. And so they were looking at what's happening with English as a second language student, so ESL students. And what they found is that while students are trying to speak, their working memory, so the working memory meaning the memory you need while you're trying to remember. Yes, this is a real live. It's very real, unless you're watching it later. But yes, right now, if you happen to be watching this and you're in the chat, yes, this is a live video. So for ESL students, what was happening is their brain was basically overheating. Like they were trying to think too much. They're really trying to process a lot of information. But it was interesting to see the results from that, actually, from people studying this and how the brain works for language learning. And the interesting contrast is that for native speakers, so the ESL, so people learning English as a second language, this is where, again, they're having lots of trouble communicating because they're having to think and translate in their heads while they speak, or they're trying to follow other speakers in the conversation and pay attention to what they're saying, but also think about what they want to respond with. So there's a lot going on here. So if I could draw like a very simple kind of chart about like the little needle about how much activity there is in the brain, it's like basically all the way up here. So from 0 to 100 is not very scientific, but just so you can understand it in a basic way, there's a lot of activity, and it gets really frustrating for people when they're trying to speak, all right? And so what was interesting is contrasting that with native speakers. So native speakers are just kind of calmly, comfortably speaking because they're not, so they're about over here. So this is people who are learning English as a first language, so EFL students. like my students. So people who learn English as a first language, and so this would be native speakers and also non-natives who are learning like natives. But these people, it's much easier, much more calm, much less activity going on in the brain while they're trying to speak. So I thought it was interesting. This woman basically confirmed what I've known and been telling people for years already, but it's great to see people doing actual research about these topics. So especially why it's difficult. I'll talk very briefly about this, but hopefully this makes sense. Khalid says, I love your channel. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you for joining me. If you know other people who would like to learn English as a first language, send them our way. So why does this happen though? Why do people who learn English as a second language struggle to speak? Why does that happen? And then why does that not happen to people learning English as a first language? And that's, again, it could be natives, or it could be just students like you who are learning with me and learning English as a first language. So this is also students. So students of the language. So in very simple terms, as I talk about in many of my videos, is when we look at how you learn, so the learning process, like you begin by trying to get language that's maybe not really what natives are using in real conversations. So we might call this textbook English. Textbook. So if you got some textbook English, usually the speech is a little bit slower and usually more clear or clearer. And then we're also studying rules. And usually working through translations. So to learn English as a second language means that you're trying to learn it through your first language. So studying translations. And if you think about it, all of the things that you do when you learn, you have to repeat all of these things when you speak, all right? So as I often say, how you learn is how you speak. So if you learn through translations, you're learning textbook English that natives don't really use in real conversations, or you're studying rules and then trying to think about those. When you get into the conversation, you have to repeat all of this process, and then that's going to obviously, basically the same thing with the EFL approach, or the ESL approach, excuse me, is that you think too much and then your brain is overheating and you're thinking and trying to process too much information. You're forgetting words, you're getting frustrated, and you're losing confidence, and this is really the cause of this. So when you're learning English as a first language, what we're trying to do is go directly to the language. We're not trying to, obviously you need to learn, some textbook things are also used in conversations, but you're also learning real conversational speech. You're hearing it faster than what you would usually hear in an English lesson. So this is the real kind of speech, the real speed, the real accents that you would hear in an actual conversation. And so when you're not learning those things, of course you are going to struggle and have to think more when you speak. But again, it was just interesting to see that this research came out and people are working on this that's actually proven that the English as a second language approach causes people more trouble than learning English just as a first language. All right. So that's all I really wanted to say in this video. Hopefully that makes sense, but I want to go and answer any questions people have. We can talk about anything you like. I'm here for a little bit. I don't know how much time I will have, but I will make time to answer as many questions as people have. So if you do have questions right now about whatever, could be confidence, or it could be fluency, or talking about pronunciation or anything. And so what was interesting, I'll let you just post any comments you have as I explain this final point. But this person with the TOEFL Masters, they were really excited about Frederick. So this is the app that I created to help people learn English as a first language. And you can learn more about that by clicking on the link in the description. But she was really impressed and excited about that. And I actually showed her how to improve her pronunciation with that. And we helped her speak better right there at the meeting. So it was really cool. And she got to improve and become a much better speaker, even just improving a couple of things about her pronunciation. Typically the things, like in her case, So she's Japanese and she has problems expressing some things, like some sounds that are not in English. But it was really great to just see in about 5 minutes she was able to become a much better speaker, much more confident about her pronunciation just by using Frederick. So anyway, if you have any questions, I'll go back and answer questions in the chat right now. Let's see, a lot of people, good morning. Nice to see everybody here. Pardon me. All right, so good pronunciation. Looks like people can hear me. Good morning from the Philippines. So I stuck, maybe you mean I'm stuck, ESL, if you mean like yes. So again, if you're learning English as a second language, then of course you are going to struggle when you speak because you're trying to learn through your native language and translate so that when you have to speak, you start translating again. All right. All right. I'm very fluent in mouth, but when I'm going to speak, I always get stuck. So shehan or shehan. Yes, so the problem is often a lot of people know a lot of English. So the ESL approach it's fine for trying to learn vocabulary, but for acquiring the ability to communicate, it's just going to cause you trouble. So the more you do it, the more it actually makes it difficult for you to communicate. So this is why, again, if people are continuing to learn English as a second language, they are still going to struggle. So this is why a lot of people have these issues. All right, let's see. Hi, Drew, glad to see you, says Adriano. Nice to see you there. Hi there, everybody is fine. All right. Sir, why people use though after a sentence? Oh, this is just a conversational way of saying but. And so this is an interesting thing. I actually teach my own kids, and they learn this naturally just by paying attention to my speech and to my wife when she speaks English. But I can say, let's say, it's hot. So first sentence is hot, but I want to go outside. So it's hot, but I want to go outside. Hopefully you can read this. It's hot, but I want to go outside. Now, just like in your language, I'm guessing there are many ways to express things. And in English, instead of saying, but I want to go outside, we can not use this and just have the though at the end. We can also put the though at the beginning. Either one of those is fine. So I can remove it here, put the period back. Though I want to go outside. So it's hot, though I want to go outside, or it's hot, I want to go outside, though. All right. So often we're just adding this as it basically means but it's just another way of expressing this, and you'll often hear natives using this. Remember that there are often many ways, as I just said, to express things, so don't worry about trying to find the one right way to do something. Usually what will happen is you should be, if you're learning English as a first language, you are prepared, like you will learn a bunch of different ways of expressing something. So some point or whatever, like in this case, though is the thing we're learning different ways of saying. And if you're learning as a native, so again, English as a first language, not learning through your second language, you're trying to understand a couple of different ways that natives will express this. And this will prepare you to understand that in conversations, but maybe you don't use all of those yourself when you speak. So maybe you only pick like one or two of these that you use and you feel very comfortable with, but you will be prepared for other people when they're using those different things. All right. So you don't have to be conversationally fluent and feel confident about all of them, but you really will feel a lot more confident when you start speaking if you're starting to learn like a native. All right, let's keep going here. Hopefully you got some more good comments. Hopefully that makes sense there. So though is just but. How can I learn grammar easily? I'm having an ESL exam next week. My grammar is not good. All right, so again, grammar, this is something that we learn in a native way. We're trying to understand what grammar is or what grammar does for certain situations, rather than trying to understand grammar rules. So since we're talking about the difference between ESL and EFL, let's contrast learning grammar this way. So it's important to remember that grammar is essential. You have to learn grammar, but the difference is how you learn it. All All right, so if we're talking about grammar, so ESL, the ESL grammar approach is we're going to look at some particular grammar point, and then we're going to try to study it. Number one, we're going to name that thing. So we're going to give it a name like the present perfect or the past simple or something like that. And so that's an additional thing you need to remember while you're trying to learn. But natives often don't know the names for things. So we have a name over here. So let's say number one, you have a name, number one, no name. So natives are really just trying to begin with the situation rather than with the grammar point and trying to understand it like linguistically. So the way you might study it in a classroom. What we're really doing is first, like you're trying to look at rules. So number two, looking at rules, and number two over here, we're really just looking at situations. We're trying to understand the words that people use in different situations. Now, they sound pretty similar, so we're talking about rules really in both cases, but natives are not thinking about like trying to learn a particular word. So let's say number three over here. So number three, we will begin with like let's say we have a word like I don't know, like at. So something even simple like that. So we're going to begin not with a particular word, but we're going to look at, again, from situations. We want to know why people are learning, or what words people are using in different situations. So if I say like, oh, I'm at school. So if you hear that, I'm not trying to tell you what this is, like if it's a preposition or an adverb or something like that. We're not worrying about the name of it, and we're not really trying to talk about rules. What we really want to do is give you lots of examples of, in this situation, how do natives speak? So what words do natives say in that situation? So if I'm in this particular situation, I am here. So I might be like, let's say this is my house. I would say I am at home. I'm at home. So I'm at school, I'm at home. And then when we're learning this, what natives are doing is they're trying to contrast different situations and how we would learn the vocabulary for that. Now, a native might also hear for this same situation, I'm in school. I'm in school. And so what natives are doing is they're trying to get more specific about really what something means for that situation. And it's important to understand that the word at doesn't mean anything by itself. It only means something in a situation, because the meanings of words change. And this is why it's important to understand things as a first language. And so natives don't try to take a word like at and then learn all of the examples of that. We're trying to learn like every usage of the word at. What they're doing is beginning again with a situation and then learning different ways of expressing that. So I'm in school and I'm at school. And you might be thinking, okay, all right, I guess like in this situation we can be both like in school and at school. And we can be talking about maybe I am physically in the school right now, or I'm like going to school. So I am, as an example, if I'm going to college, but I'm at home actually during a summer vacation. So a friend of mine, I might be talking with him and I say, yeah, I'm in school right now. So it just means I'm going to school. And that's a slightly different meaning, a slightly different situation, and natives are trying to put all of these together, and this is really how we naturally build up an understanding of how the grammar works. So we're not trying to look at it as like an individual word or something. We're really looking at it as how it fits for particular situations. I hope this makes sense, because this is really the most important part. This is the foundation of understanding something like a native rather than trying to understand it like a student. So again, a student says, okay, today we're going to look at the word at. And then they're trying to learn the word basically backwards, like in what situations might we use it. But to a native, we actually want to begin with the situation and think, well, what are the different ways we might express that? So if I'm physically somewhere, another way I'm again trying to give more examples to help you understand something like a native. So here's another example. Let's say there's like a restaurant over here. So here's some food. at a restaurant and I'm standing right here in maybe like the parking lot for that restaurant. And I'm talking to a friend on my phone and he says, hey, where are you right now? So he's talking about physically, where are you located? And I could say, I'm at the restaurant. I'm at the restaurant. So right here, there's kind of a physical area, even inside and around the restaurant. And so in this situation, I would say I'm at the restaurant, but I would not say I'm in the restaurant. So I'm not in the restaurant right now. I'm at the restaurant, but I'm not in the restaurant. All right? So in both of these, let's say I'm inside. So now I am at the restaurant and I am in the restaurant. And as you get more examples, you start thinking, okay, I get it. I understand how we use these words in these situations. Okay? So this is how you learn grammar, the difference between learning grammar as a second language and learning it as a first language. Just remember your actual native language and how you learned your language. So you're not really thinking about grammar rules, and you probably don't know the names of the various grammar rules or like the different tenses in your native language. But you know how to use them automatically because you've seen lots of different situations and you know what natives say in those situations. All right? I can cover this in more detail if you like, but there are lots of questions, and hopefully that makes sense so far. All right, let's see here. So how do you pronounce schedule? Schedule. You will hear something like British English, they might say like schedule, but we say schedule in the United States. If you'd like to hear me pronounce, not only hear me pronounce individual words and sentences, but also learn so you can understand how to pronounce them like a native, just get Frederick. You can click on the link in the description for that. Let's see. Hello from Sao Paulo, Brazil. Hi, teacher. Don't forget the vocabulary. So how do you not forget the vocabulary, says Didi. Again, it's the same thing. The English as a second language approach. So we're going to talk about vocabulary. The same idea. So we're trying to learn things from situations and trying to connect that vocabulary. Usually you begin with a translation, or we have a definition of something. So this is for vocab, just to contrast the difference between these two. So in English as a first language, of course, you're learning everything in English. And then you're also trying to understand it again from the situation. Because remember, the vocabulary itself doesn't mean anything. I know this is a weird idea, but again, I've given this example before, but the word bark. So it could mean like the skin of a tree, but bark could also mean the sound of a dog, like bark, 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 that sound. And so we don't have you don't like learn the word bark, you learn the word bark in different situations. And this is how you would also be able to remember it much easier, much faster as well, to recall it in conversations, because you're not trying to think about translations or definitions. So when English students are learning through their native language, of course they're going to translate something because they don't really understand what that is. And they're trying to think, okay, what is the word in my native language, rather than being able to just understand the situation. And so most lessons don't help you understand things from the situation, they just give you a translation or a definition. All right? So that's vocabulary. Again, you'll see how these things all work together. Vocabulary, pronunciation, for remembering things, for listening, all of these things. It's like night and day. So looking at the two different approaches, and again, if you're trying to use the English as a second language approach, this is what's going to cause you to have lots of trouble when you're communicating and often misunderstand people as well. All right, I think because I started thinking in English, that helped me a lot. Yeah, so if you're thinking in English, obviously that would be better than thinking through your native language. And the more you can understand things like a native, the better it will be for you in communication. Let's see. I've got Tsuki over here, says, my daughter, 9 years old, wants to learn speak English, so I have been thinking about eikaiwa or kumon. What should I do? Please give me your advice. これをダウンロードして使ってください。これ全部で英語で勉強するからね。 So this is the same thing as a person in Japan. So I was just giving a presentation about this yesterday. So learning using Frederick, you can click on the link in the description of this video, and this will actually take you through learning pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, and improving your listening at the same time. And so if you want to learn, rather than going through like the traditional Japanese, you really can't stop that. I'm not trying to change the regular education system in Japan, but I can help people who are trying to go around that and help their kids learn the language. And so the same thing, Frederick works in any country for any child, for any adult as well who wants to understand English the native way. So just click on the link in the description to learn more about that. All right, let's see. Is it okay to look up the meanings of a word in your native language in a dictionary? Well, you're not going to die if you do that. I recommend you use an English to English dictionary if you don't understand something, but that's the same way a native would do it. As best as possible, you should be trying to learn and do everything as a native would do it. So it's much easier to do that than trying to do the things like if you're creating, again, more steps when you learn, then those steps you're going to have to repeat them again when you speak, all right? So it's the same process. All right, let's see here. Greetings from Brazil, says Wellington, nice to see you there. I always imitate the native speaker. I have improved my pronunciation dramatically. Glad to hear it. I was or I were? Well, I was. If you're just talking about like the simple past, then remember this is again we don't want to just look at one vocabulary, like one word or phrase. We want to look at the situation it's in. So like the subjunctive mood is different from like the past simple. But I don't want to explain a lot about grammar rules. The point is to understand when are you using something. So what is the situation you would use something in, and then you think about the vocabulary after that. So I give the example often of, as an example, ordering a drink or something in a coffee shop. So when I first came to Japan, I was doing I guess you would call this like the Japanese, JSL, Japanese as a second language method or whatever, rather than learning Japanese as a first language. And so I was studying a lot of translations and definitions, and this caused me to struggle to speak. So I couldn't understand, I didn't feel confident about what I was saying, and so I didn't want to speak. And so what I did instead was start learning Japanese as a first language, which is why I now teach English as a first language to people. So in this case, let's say ordering food at a cafe. Now, if you go to a cafe, let's imagine there are 100 people that are going to order some food. And so the first person, like maybe they say this expression right here. Next person says a different expression. Another person says a slightly different expression. But maybe another person like says this expression again. You will basically have like a kind of bell curve of the common things that people will use, and then you will hear some other things as well. As an example, in English, someone may say, may I have something? So may I have. You will also hear the really incorrect grammar, but people use it very frequently, which is can I have? You will also hear can I or may I, can I get? Can I get something? So can I get a coffee? Can I get a coffee? And not only are you hearing the different vocabulary, but you're hearing the different ways that people say this. So instead of a clear can I get, natives don't speak that way. They're blending their words together. This becomes ki, na, really it's like na, can I get? Can I get? Can I get a coffee? Can I get a coffee? Remember that natives are learning from listening first. So young children are not learning the language from the written word. They're learning by listening to people speak. And that's why they have to learn spelling and grammar and punctuation and things like that later in school. But while they're young, they're just speaking a lot and listening to what people say. So they hear, can I get? Can I get? Can I get? Can I get? Or instead of give me, little kids say, gimme, Give me. Give me that. Give me that. Give me. Give me that. Give me that. Give me that. So only when they get older do they learn, okay, you write it like this, like give me, and you write it clearly and correctly in that way. All right? So again, if you're trying to learn vocabulary, you will learn these lots of different situations when you learn English as a first language. So let me, yes, again, that's another good example, the same kind of thing. So there are lots of basic examples like this, like going to is gonna, or have to is have to, that kind of thing. But you will learn all of those if you're learning English as a first language rather than trying to learn the technical vocabulary and learning basically kind of like a linguist would learn. All right, let's see. All right, what do you think about ChatGPT? I don't know much about ChatGPT, actually. I mean, I know that it's around and people are using it and people are asking it questions. I know it's interesting to see like the biases it has about like political things, which is really interesting. But the interesting thing about something like that is it's still software created by people, and so the kind of more open and honest we can be about things for software, the more open and honest the software will be, and the better kind of information or advice it will give us. So I haven't played with it a lot. I did use, if you look at my a couple of months ago, I did a podcast update episode, and I made the picture of that was done with AI. So I made it like the art for that thumbnail is AI art. So I thought that was just fascinating that you can actually do something like that. But it'll be interesting. Language is a very tricky thing. There have been lots of people who have tried to make translation tools. So people who are like, you speak into your phone and it gives you a translation or something. And for basic things like where is the bathroom, that works fine. But if you're really trying to have higher level good communication, we're still not at that level. Maybe we'll get to that level, I don't know. Maybe I will be out of a job and everyone will just be able to speak and you'll have a earplug or something like that, and I'll have to find something else to do. We'll see. All right, should I learn idiom, slang, and their usage? Thank you, teacher. Salima, again, it's not about specific vocabulary. The point is, so again, students are thinking about vocabulary, like I need to learn idioms or I need to learn this or whatever, when it's much better to think about what are the situations in which you would use something. So when are you trying to use your English? When do you commonly use it? Like, do you need to use your English? As an example, if you're a parent talking to a teacher at school, or do you need to do it like you're working as at a call center or at a restaurant, or you need it for talking to international clients or something like that. First, focus on the particular situations or the kinds of things you talk about, and then you can think about what vocabulary would be appropriate from that or for that, just by watching how natives express themselves in those situations. So this is why we focus on in Fluent for Life, which you can also learn about by clicking on the link in the description of this video. But this is why we focus on particular topics. So when you're talking about this, what kind of expressions do you talk about? So when you're talking about dating or relationships, what kinds of things did natives say and how do we use those expressions in real life? So if you learn that way, this is, again, the same way you learned your native language. All you're doing is using that same approach for learning English. All right. Prepositions are tricky. Prepositions, actually, it's pretty easy if you learn them in situations. So instead of trying to take a preposition like in or on, you actually learn it in a situation, and you can compare them very easily. If you watch the Beginning English playlist on YouTube that we created, that's one of the first things I did years ago, but there's a whole series of videos I made that's learning English all in English. I do add some kind of grammar point things in there because I know people are interested in that and they want to learn more, but the majority of the videos are just me showing you how the grammar works. So if you go to that playlist, even though it's for beginners, it will really help you understand that. One quick point about this, there is a certain kind of learner who is like they think they know a lot, so they know a lot of vocabulary, but they still have trouble communicating. And typically, this kind of learner, what they really should do is go back and review a lot of the things that they think they know, but they're not actually using correctly. So if you can do that, I know it's always exciting to go like try to learn something new, but if you're still not able to use the vocabulary you already know, you should go back and review that. All right, let's see here. All right, Helen says, I'm studying grammar too. When are you arriving? I'm arriving on Wednesday morning. Yeah, so if you're talking about, when are you arriving or when will you arrive, that's another way to express that. And you will again hear different ways. Another way might be, when do you get here? When will you get here? When are you getting here? So remember that natives are going to express things in different ways, and the more examples you hear, the more kind of natural you will understand the grammar and the more fluently you will speak. So Maria says, may I have the link? If you're talking about either Frederick or Fluent for Life, just go down in the description right below this video and you can find the link from both of them. Luas from Chicago over there. Yes, just like me. Arigato, do itashimashite ne. All right, hello from Turkey, driving and listening to you from Chicago. Yes, that's my hometown. I haven't been back to Chicago in many years. Maybe I will. I need to get back there. My dad is actually, if you've seen him in some of my videos, he is coming out to visit the family in, I think, next month, actually. All right, what does knuckle down mean? Knuckle down. Knuckle down is like to get, you're getting, let's see, what's the best way to explain it without kind of showing you a situation? Here's what I recommend you do. Number one, do a Google image search for knuckle down, so you can see some examples. And also, if you do a YouTube search for knuckle down, you will see that as well. So rather than trying to use that that would be my like quick assignment for you, so you can look at it that way, rather than me just giving you a definition of it. All right, let's see. Please, how to improve my English vocabulary. All right, so hopefully I've covered that. It makes sense that you should be learning it like a native. You're understanding it from like the English language and learning it from situations rather than trying to learn that through your native language. Let's see, can most of the young people in Japan speak English? No, most people cannot. And again, most people in Japan are learning English so they can pass tests, and it's a very typical example of people learning English as a second language. So they're in class, they're trying to memorize a lot of vocabulary so that they can pass tests, but there's a lot more Japanese in the textbook than English. So if you open up a Japanese textbook for English learners, it's just lots of Japanese in there for most textbooks. There might be a few that have you learn something, but it's really difficult. So one of the things I was explaining to parents yesterday, so I had parents coming and listening to my presentation about learning English in Japan, but this is the same thing for learning English really anywhere in the world, is that usually like an English textbook, so I'll give the Japanese example, but this is the same thing you might find in pretty much anywhere. So my name is Tom. Now, this seems like it would be very simple English, especially if you know this already. But if you imagine, like, you're an alien coming to the planet and trying to learn the English language, this is not simple at all. So we've got the possessive, we've got nouns and verbs. We're talking about like who is somebody, and you don't know, like, if you don't know any English at all, then you don't know what this is. You don't know what you're talking about, and you also can't read it either. All right, so you might have like, this is like, we've got the last letter Y here. We've got silent E, magic E. This is like if we're just looking at the pronunciation of these things. So this is a short vowel O. No kids are able to read any of this stuff, and that's why you need to put like the Japanese. You know, we would put like my name is something like that. So we're going to pronounce it the way a Japanese person would be able to read it, and then it's going to just cause a lot of trouble for people trying to learn the language. So the pronunciation is not the same, and rather than teaching kids the pronunciation within the language itself, it's making it a lot more difficult for them. So if you're trying to teach, not only teach young kids the language, You should be using Frederick for that, so that's going to help them learn everything in English, and they're going to learn it basically from the alphabet, short vowel sounds, and then we start learning blends and digraphs and other things like that, but you learn the pronunciation and the vocabulary and the grammar in a much easier to understand way. Okay? So the point is to learn this. Hopefully I'm not being confusing over here, but the point is to learn it in a step-by-step way, not like this. This is not beginning English. This is actually beginning, if we try to learn something normally, you should be having simple steps like this as you go up, and you're not having a big jump trying to go from one level to the next level. But with this, my name is, you're beginning, the first step is like one giant jump up here before you're trying to move up like this. And this is why so many people have trouble communicating. They don't understand what they're saying, so they don't feel confident, so they don't speak. All right? Let's keep going here. I'm talking too much, getting more comments over here. All right, let's see here. All right, so I answered the question. What is the difference between I have to and I must? I must have to? I must have to? You mean you must? I must have to? Yeah, we wouldn't use I must have to. I don't know. Again, thinking like a native rather than thinking like a teacher, I would just say think about the specific situations where you're in that. It just means something you must do. Like I must breathe air or I will die. So I must do that. Or I have to do that. So in this case, in this situation, you would use both of those things. You could use either one of those. But you wouldn't say like I must have to. Dee Dee says, I study English and I haven't practiced at last, but my teacher sent me your channel to study and I've tried getting your class. Yeah, if you have class lessons that aren't helping you, then it's basically meaning you're learning as the ESL approach. But really, you should be understanding things like a native does, and it's really the only way you're going to get fluent. So everything else is going to teach you. There are lots of ways to learn the English language, but if you actually want to communicate without thinking and translating in your head, you have to learn it like a native. How many dinosaurs have you created with artificial intelligence? How many dinosaurs? Well, I haven't done anything. I made one image, but I'm sure you could make some interesting dinosaurs with either ChatGPT or I don't know, using some interesting image stuff as well. I've watched your videos of 7 years ago. My English is advanced still. All right. Very good morning from Kolkata, India. It's night in Rio. Yes. Let's see. Do you think watching a movie a day with English subtitles is pointless? Well, I wouldn't say it's pointless, but the problem with watching a lot of movies is, again, like I mentioned this earlier in the video, but what really stops people from communicating is they don't spend enough time with the things that they learn. So they don't learn the information deeply enough to really have a really good, strong sense of what something means. So let's say you watch a movie, you're going to get a bunch of new phrases over here, and you will hear some different speakers. There might be some new things, and there might be some old things. You might hear some expressions again and again, but most of the information will be new. So it's talking about maybe a new topic or a new situation or something like that. And so each time you watch a new movie, you learn, like let's say there's a little bit of review. So the same information you learned here is also over here, or you learn different ways of saying something for that particular situation. You go to another movie, maybe you have a little bit over here. So this is a much slower way to learn the language because you're not really controlling the information. You want to spend more time with the information you're learning. So instead, I would do something like what we do in Fluent for Life, which is where you take one thing, you could focus on one movie. I would watch the movie, I would read the transcript, I might even watch like a couple of different movies about that exact same thing. So like a big popular story like Titanic. So the movie Titanic, there are a couple of different movies about that same thing. And so instead of having a little bit of information that's repeated, you're having a lot more information that you get to review. Remember, it's the review that gets you fluent. It's not just learning more vocabulary. You don't become a better speaker by learning more. You become a better speaker by really going deep into the vocabulary you know. So the same thing for me learning Japanese. There is still a lot of Japanese I don't know. But the vocabulary I do know, I know it really well, so I can give a presentation all in Japanese like I did yesterday. All right. So the point is not to try to learn more. You don't get fluent by learning more information. All right. Just knowing more words and building a passive vocabulary doesn't help you speak. You have to spend more time with the things until you really know them and you really feel confident. All right. So you begin with understanding. So understanding, and this is really the goal of understanding, is really to feel confident about it for certainty. So you're going for certainty. You want to feel absolutely sure about something, because when you do, then you feel confident. And when you feel confident, you speak. All right? So the goal is not, we don't try to learn a phrase and repeat that again and again. That's really a waste of time. Really what you should be doing is taking one phrase and really trying to understand, okay, like, how do we use it in this situation or that situation, or how are natives using it? Like looking at one situation and looking at the different ways natives might express something for that, or hearing different natives say that same thing. All right, so anytime people have questions about this, the goal is to understand something really, really well, okay? If you think about children, children know their vocabulary very well, even though they don't know as much English as maybe an adult learner does. So you would probably know, like a lot of people watching this video would know more English, you would know more words, you would have a larger vocabulary than both of my kids. But if you watch them speak, they can speak better than a lot of the people I teach because they know the vocabulary really well. All right. The really number one problem that people have is that the review of something like this is boring. People don't want to review. So they think they know some information and then they stop. It's like trying to learn, karate or something like that, where you take one move and like, okay, I learned how to do a punch and now I learn how to do that. But the people who really practice, they are prepared. So if there's an actual fight, they just automatically know how to do something. All right, that's the whole point. So when you're in a conversation, you've reviewed something enough that you really understand it. But the nice thing about learning a language is that you're not supposed to just repeat the same phrase over and over and over again. What you should be doing is actually getting varied review. So you're listening to different speakers, just like this movie example. If we're watching different movies about Titanic, or watching different YouTube videos about how to fix a tire on your car. All right, it's the same thing. If you watch 5 different videos on YouTube about how to fix a tire on your car, you will feel much more confident about that, and you will review without it feeling boring. Okay, so the point is to get the review you need until you really feel confident, and we do that without it being boring by getting naturally varied review. This is what we do in Fluent for Life. All right, going back here, let's see. All right, so, okay, so Dilip says, sir, how can we practice the word which we have never heard? I don't know, that's like a Zen, I don't know. How do you practice? How do you do something you've never done before? I don't know. I mean, if you have to hear a word first, you mean a new word? Maybe you mean a new word. But again, the point is not to sit and practice. You don't practice vocabulary by repeating it again and again. All right, I've covered this in many videos if you need me to explain more about why this works. Basically, the opposite of everything you think you should do that. So for learning English as a second language, people will tell you that you have to speak and speak and speak in order to get fluent. But the truth is you don't learn that way, because just repeating things again and again is not going to help you in a conversation. And the reason why is because conversations are dynamic. People will say different things. You will need to be prepared for maybe some phrase you weren't expecting. That's the whole point of a conversation. You never know what's going to happen. It's not like learning an instrument where you're just playing something by yourself and there's a set schedule or a set pattern or a plan or something like that. You have to be prepared for anything in a conversation. All right. I don't know why, I think whenever I get a new chat here, then it flips all the way back down to the bottom. Let's see. All right, now I have to go back and find where I was. All right. Well, konnichiwa, genki desu ka? Genki yo. Konnichiwa. Konnichiwa. Let's see. So I watch a lot of English videos and my listening skills improved a lot, but I can't improve my oral English. How to fix the gap between listening and speaking? Dan, excellent question. So again, what most people do, like they will watch, you can watch, I don't know, like 100 YouTube videos about learning whatever. Like we're going to learn, here are 10 phrasal verbs, here are 10 idioms, here are, let's do the present progressive or whatever. We're going to learn some grammar. As you go through these different things, the problem is you're not spending enough time on these things individually. You learn these 10 things and then basically you forget about them the next day. So you build a passive vocabulary where you can recall something in a conversation if somebody says it. So it's really more recognizing the information rather than using it. But going through and learning all of these things, you're basically forgetting this. So your mind learns the new thing and then it forgets the old one. And then you learn another new thing and then you forget the old one. So as you go through the new vocabulary or the grammar point or whatever you're learning, basically it's a whole system to waste your time. And this is why I think people ask me before why I don't have ads on my videos. So why I don't have ads on my videos is because like I don't want people to get stuck in this process here. Whenever you're watching like YouTube videos and you see ads before that, the person who created the video is assuming like, well, it's not as important if you learn the lesson or not, but they're getting advertising revenue from you. So in my case, I turned off all the ads on my videos. That's why you don't see any ads on my videos. And the point is, if I can't make my lesson good, then I don't eat. So I actually have to prove that the lesson works. And so rather than just trying to give you like more of this, which is really just wasting your time, what I actually want to help you do is spend more time. You focus on one thing and really like we're going to come at that from a lot of different angles. So today we're going to talk about going to the zoo. And we're going to spend like 2 or 3 hours just talking about that and all the different things you might do. And we're going to review that from different perspectives in different ways, maybe in different tenses, or you're going to hear that from different speakers. But the point is to focus on this, and it's the focus that builds the fluency. So what Dan was talking about like the gap between like speaking up here and listening, listening improves as you just get more information. But speaking improves as you get deeper information, as you go deeper into that, all right? So the person who is only listening is like a person riding in a car. They're not driving it, they're just riding and maybe they can kind of recognize some things. But if I said, okay, now it's your turn to drive, you would probably struggle to drive without having a map or something. So the person who is learning how to speak very well, they spend a lot of time reviewing things. All right, it's the review that gets you fluent. And again, I'm going to repeat myself about this because people need that repetition. But again, the major problem with learning is that review is boring. If you watch a random YouTube video about 10 phrasal verbs, you are probably only going to watch it one time. All right, you're probably not going to download the transcript and watch that. You will get bored with that and then you will move on to the next video. Okay, this is basically what everybody does because the human mind, the human brain is wired for new information. It's always looking for new things. It's interested in new things, and we don't want to look at things that we've already seen because it's boring. All right. So how do we solve this problem? We solve this problem by reviewing things in different ways. And this is what I call naturally varied review. So the point is not to just watch one video about some topic and then go to a completely different YouTube video. This is why people can spend 2 hours a day just watching content on YouTube and still stay stuck down here in the listening, but not ever reach speaking up here. So you don't become fluent by trying to repeat what you hear. You get fluent by really understanding something so well that you feel confident about using it. All right. Let's see. Your video about phrasal verb helped me a lot. Yeah, glad to hear it. So the phrasal verb training I make, it's all helping you understand it and seeing it like a native would learn it. So you learn it the same way. I actually have like like using little Legos and stuff and teach people the same way I teach my own children about the vocabulary. All right, your channel is better about English language. Glad to hear it. Is it good to learn pronunciation naturally, not hardly? I don't know what that means. But you should be learning it, English pronunciation, learning it step by step. And Frederick will show you how to do that. Just click on the link in the description. Jao says, I like your amazing lessons. Glad to hear it. 2.0 is the best channel I've ever known. Just keep going like that. I'm having huge problem with my ESL intermediate English to use in real life situations every day. I live in an English country. What would you recommend me to do? Thank you so much. So again, problem is focus. The problem is focus. If you know a lot of English, but you can't speak, it just means you don't feel comfortable enough about that vocabulary to use it. So you don't know it well enough. You don't really understand that information well enough, and that's why you don't speak. So this is what we do. So again, I mentioned Frederick. I'll put the, let's see, probably can't even read that. Let me put this a little lower down. So Frederick and Fluent for Life. So what we do in Fluent for Life, and you can find the link for both of these in the description below this video. But Fluent for Life is designed to help you learn how to speak in different situations. So what do you talk about when you're just having a personal conversation with someone? What do you talk about when you're going to the doctor or something like that? But we don't just give you the vocabulary. We want to help you review it in many different ways. So on the first day, maybe you're going to learn a few expressions. On the second day, you might try to hear those same expressions used in different tenses, but we're not trying to teach you a bunch of rules. It's like, here's how we would talk about that in the future. So the whole story is told in the future. And the next day, maybe you would hear like different speakers using those same expressions. And then the next day after that, you might try writing those or just listening to it or reading it. So you're spending a whole month just focusing on one particular topic. And by the end of that month, if you just follow that, if you just spend 15 minutes a day focusing on something, you will become fluent in that information, even if you don't have someone to practice with. All right? That's the exciting thing about learning English as a first language. So EFL, learning English as a first language, and this is what I teach. So how to, okay, so someone's asking about, I'll get to that in a second. Let's see here. So what do you think, Ben Franklin exercise? I like to imitate your voice. Could you improve my pronunciation if I did imitate you? Yeah, so you can certainly imitate different speakers. And I would, again, one of the different things like we're doing in Fluent for Life is find a speech or a song or something that's popular that many people have done. So you can listen to different people. The point is not just to mimic one person's speech, but it's also to improve your listening. And so if you can hear different people saying the same thing, like different people reading a speech or telling a story or something like that, like the Titanic example I gave before, the point is to get lots of naturally varied review, because that will help you improve your own pronunciation as well as improve your listening. So, of course, you can listen to my pronunciation if you like, or you can listen to other people, however you like to sound. Hater, nice to see you there. Let's see. And Sam Walton is back. How have you been? I'm doing well. I think you is the only one that have this method and helped me a lot working in American Guys with my job. Oh, I'm glad to hear it. Yes, the interesting thing is that like this is how you learned your native language. So I'm not doing anything special and I'm not doing anything new. It seems like it's something new because this is just what most people do. Most people learn English as a second language because they think that there is such a thing as like different languages. And so, okay, you learned, whatever your language is, if you're, Japanese or Russian or whatever, you learn that as a child. And because you're trying to learn a different language when you're older, people think they need to learn it in a different way. But no, you learn all languages. You learn all languages the same way. It's really very simple. So it doesn't matter what language you're learning. If you're trying to learn French or Chinese or Thai or whatever as you're an adult, you would just learn it the same way you learned your native language. All right, let's see. So Ada says, if I have a teacher who teaches me English, what should I ask him to teach me what you say. So if you have like a particular, if you mean like a different English teacher, like you go to an English class or something, lots of English teachers actually follow my channel because they can learn more about how to actually teach like a native. But the point is really to help someone understand something all in English. That's really the basic idea. So you can also recommend, if you have a teacher and they'd like to learn more about how to learn this way or how to teach this way, just really watch any of the videos. Like the recent live videos are good. You can go back and watch the like the how to get fluent in 15 minutes a day. So I made a video like, if you only have 15 minutes a day, you should do this. That was a recent live video, maybe 2 months ago, I think. And I had another one that was talking about the different levels of fluency as you're learning. So you begin with basic, like, okay, I'm just hearing something for the first time. So you're kind of recognizing it, you're learning it, maybe you don't quite understand it, and then you move all the way up to ownership, where you really feel confident about the language and you can easily use it without hesitating or without worrying about maybe making mistakes, that kind of thing. But the great thing about this process is that you can really do it all by yourself. So you don't need to have a practice partner to repeat things with, that you don't become actually better at using vocabulary just by repeating it. It's like a very, very tiny part, like how you move your mouth or something like that. It's a very small part of actual communication. If you don't feel confident about something, then you don't use it. So that's why you want to focus on understanding first, and that's where the understanding leads to confidence, which leads to actual communication and fluency. All right, let's see. Use Samaria. Hey, this live is every day. Is my first time here. Nice to see you here. No, these lives are not every day. Lately, I've been doing lives maybe once a week. So on Instagram, maybe 1 day a week, and then 1 day a week on YouTube, just so I can answer more questions from people. So how can I collect and learn these positions? Like a child should collect all the greetings, all the things, all the questions, all the main positions for each situation. Yeah, Hater, you don't have, you're overthinking this. So the point is not to try to to collect the language like a student where you're trying to get every example of something. It's just more like you think about a particular situation. So when would you use your English? Just you personally. And each person will have their different situation. Some of the people who learn with me are trying to learn for professional purposes. So they want to learn how to have good conversations with the people they work with. Other people, maybe it's just trying to communicate with their like husband or wife. So I have many people who get married, and maybe they're married to someone who doesn't speak English very well, or maybe they don't speak English very well and they want to communicate better. So you focus on the particular situations, and then you would learn about those kinds of things. So you would focus on the particular situation you need to, and rather than trying to learn like every expression for that, just see how natives talk about that thing. How do natives talk about like sharing their feelings, or how do people talk about buying, I don't know, tickets to a baseball game or something like that. So each one of these is a situation, and then you learn in these situations there are kind of some general phrases that people might use, but you would spend time really watching a bunch of people talking about these things. And so you would have, like what we do in Fluent for Life is we have a single conversation. So you begin with just like a conversation between two people or three people, and we're talking about, I don't know, talking about like pets or family or something like that. And so from that, you get lots of vocabulary, you get lots of cultural expressions, and you learn grammar, you learn pronunciation as well, but you learn all of these things, and we really take time again, going deep into the language and really talking about how do we learn these expressions and how do we review these things. And after you've reviewed everything very well, finally you're watching the conversation and you feel much more confident about just understanding and following that. And you also build up your fluency so you can understand and communicate with other people in real life. So this is the same way I got fluent in Japanese. This is the same way you all got fluent in your native language, all right? So it's the same way we do it. You just watch, like, so young kids, they're watching what their parents do. Like when parents are yelling at each other, what do they say? When parents are yelling at kids, what do they say? You see that. Like if you go out, like if I'm here in Japan, I would see, again, How do people order food at a restaurant? What do they say? So what do they say for that situation? So the point is not to try to master every situation, and don't do all that. Just think about the things that you need for your everyday life. So what do you need to do? Another example for me, when I first came to Japan, I was learning Japanese gardening. So I had to do that. That was about like a year after I arrived, I started doing that. That's the reason I came to Japan. And so a lot of my Japanese learning was focused on learning for gardening. So I had to learn vocabulary for that. And a lot of that, I just learned it naturally by seeing people every day talking about that same stuff. Like you learn about moving a rock or cutting a tree or something like that. You learn that vocabulary automatically by spending time with it. All right. Your familiarity with the language is what gives you the ability to speak. It's not just knowledge of the vocabulary at like a passive level. You really need to go deep into the vocabulary and spend time doing it. But if you repeat it again and again, it will feel boring for you, and that's why you won't really want to practice. So remember, you need to practice, but you don't practice by speaking. You practice by getting lots of different examples for that particular situation. All right, let's see here. So a better way to learn any word through phrases than to use it in sentences. I don't know if that's a question or you're asking. Better way to learn any word through phrases and then use it in sentences. Yeah, when you really feel confident about vocabulary, you will be very confident about using it. It's really that simple. And so if you feel very good about the vocabulary you know, then you will want to use it. All right. I'm trying to say this in different ways to give you examples of that. But yes, if you don't feel confident about it, you will not feel confident about using it. Let's see. So you were learning, I guess, Japanese and English, Samir. Let's see. Do your lessons benefit the beginner? And if not, how does the beginner learn the language without translating it into their mother tongue? So yes, this is the same way everybody learns. Like children learn English all in English. Children learn like intermediate or advanced. It doesn't matter. Like they're all learning the same thing. Now, for the particular lessons I have in Fluent for Life, this is for people who already know a lot of English. I'm trying to rewire their brain specifically to help them go from kind of passive understanding to fluent. And Frederick is for absolute beginners, but it's also for adults who want to improve their pronunciation and listening. Because again, if you go by the situation, it's not about like learning for a particular level. Adults and children need to learn how to pronounce things correctly. And so they're both doing that with Frederick. But if you go to my beginning English playlist here on YouTube, you can see what it's like to actually teach somebody English all in English without using their native language in order to do that. But again, it's the same way you would teach your children. So imagine, I don't know what your native language is, but let's say I'm in, I don't know, like my native language is Arabic, and I'm trying to teach my young kids Arabic. I'm not using Chinese to teach them Arabic. I'm just teaching them Arabic in Arabic. So I would give them an example. It's like, whatever the word is in Arabic, it's like, okay, we got red, black, and blue. And over time, because they're getting review in these things, they're going to learn the vocabulary and feel very confident about using it. But they're doing it all in Arabic. So it's the same way if you think about how do you teach a child something, that's the same way you would learn it in your native language. That's the same way you should be teaching it in like a lesson for an English learner as well. Tilly says, thanks, Drew. I love your class. I'm glad to hear it. Vincent says, Drew, can I be a fluent speaker by reviewing 7 fluency habits? Vincent, 7 fluency habit. Yeah, so the 7 fluency habits that I talk about, this is really understanding that there are different pieces of fluency. If you want me to, I might as well, I can mention this. I won't spend too much time on it because I've talked about it in many different videos, but the basic idea, so I have like, let's see if I can draw this, make sure it has 7 sides in it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh no. It's always hard. We got to draw this like a better sided shape over here. Let's draw it this way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. So the basic idea for the 7 fluency habits or the 7 fluency skills is that fluency is really a collection of different things. So it might be, again, I won't cover everything because I've done this. If you just search 7 Fluency Habits on YouTube, you will find it. Also, all the guides I have cover all of these things. But let's just say like this is listening, pronunciation, confidence, etc., grammar. And so what's really happening with fluency is the level of your fluency is actually the level of your weakest habit. All right. So as an example, let's say like your vocabulary is really strong. So a lot of people watching this video, they can understand. They can understand a lot. Their listening is pretty good. They can understand me, but they can't really understand some people in conversations. Or maybe let's see, like their pronunciation is okay. And we're just going to like give these kind of random levels, but confidence is really low. So this means that even if you have a big vocabulary, if you have weak confidence, you will not be able to speak. Your confidence is really what sets the level for your ability to communicate. Does that make sense? So even if you know a lot of words, what students will do is they will continue to learn more words instead of just improving their confidence. So if they felt more confident about speaking, they would automatically improve their fluency very quickly because the confidence is what's limiting them, not their vocabulary. Okay, so it's not about like learning these is like the key to fluency. It's just like understanding what your particular weakest habit is. So if let's say you feel very confident, so some people are just really confident, but maybe they don't know any of the language. So that in their case, confidence is not a problem, vocabulary is a problem, so they should focus on learning more words. But the point is just to focus on whatever the weakest habit is, and then you improve that, and that's how you can improve your overall fluency. But your overall fluency is really controlled by the weakest habit, so the weakest skill that you have. If it's pronunciation or listening or vocabulary, whatever that is, that's the thing you should be focusing on. All right. You're looking great in this shirt. All right, glad to hear it. All right, do you have regular course for intermediario, for intermediate learning? Yes, so this is what Fluent for Life is. So if you can understand what I'm saying right now, you can follow my lessons and I can get you from this level to fluency. That's what I do in Fluent for Life. So that's for intermediate and advanced students, again, who know a lot of English but struggle to speak. All right. And look at that. I think we got to the end of all those. Fantastic. All right. Yeah, I think I got through all those. 72 minutes into the video. Oh my goodness. All right. So again, remember, if you're trying to become a fluent speaker, don't learn the ESL way. Learn the English as a first language way. All right. Even if you don't do that with me, it's fine. I understand. Maybe everyone is not trying to learn with me. Fine. You can still learn this way, like if you're trying to watch YouTube videos or something, but the point is to focus, to really feel confident. If you don't feel confident about the vocabulary or you don't understand something or you need translations, then of course you're really going to struggle when you communicate. So really take time, focus on the particular information you want to learn, whatever that is, and learn it like a native. When you learn it like a native, you will use it like a native. You will feel confident. And that's what I really hope for you out there. It's the same thing I struggled with when I was trying to get fluent in various languages, and I failed to do that. And even when I came to Japan, I still spent a year struggling to learn because I was trying to learn Japanese as a second language rather than learning it as a first language. All right, I'm going to lose my voice over here, but that should be the end of comments. Glad to hear it. Okay, says Maya. Hi, teacher from Honduras. Nice to see you there, Arturo. All right, looks like everybody's gone. And fantastic. Remember, English as a first language rather than English as a second language. If you'd like to learn more about both Frederick and Fluent for Life, you can do that by clicking on the links in this video, in the description below it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye. Oh, wait. Well, it looks like we got someone. Hater, is there... All right. Now, you guys always do this to me right before I'm trying to go. Let's see. Is there a way to start learning a specific language like the plan to go from 0 to fluency? Some have given this thing named the Islands of Languages. I don't know I don't know. That sounds like some marketing from me, but it basically just learning it like a native. That's the whole magic. That's it. Learning it like a native. So if you want to learn Persian, you want to learn Farsi, you want to learn Thai or Portuguese or whatever, you would just focus on that specific thing. So I had to extract everything from a given topic to learn it perfectly to go from zero to fluent. Yeah, and so like everything I've just explained in this video is that. It's just learning that thing. You don't need to learn the whole language and try to like master everything. I don't understand what your goal is exactly. What you're trying to learn like every language perfectly or something? I don't know, even polyglots. I'm sure there's a lot of information they don't know. There are some languages that they speak better than other languages. But the point is to learn them like a first language. And that's it. That's really all you have to do. So you focus, like start learning it, make sure you can understand some things like a native. So you're understanding the information. It could be like for children or for, whatever, but it should be for your level. So if I'm starting to learn Portuguese, I'm not going to start with like advanced expressions. I'm going to start with the same kinds of stuff that kids use. I'm going to watch some, Portuguese programs for children or read some books for kids or something like that. But the point is I'm going to try to understand the language in the language. So if I'm teaching you Japanese from like beginner level, I'm going to do the same thing that I would do for my own kids. So it's like, kono maka wa aka, akai maka, kuro, kuroi maka, ao, aoi maka. And then I would just give you that same lesson again and again until you felt really confident about that. And then you would just start using the language naturally all by yourself. It's really that simple. All right, looks like we are getting to the end, but that's it. That is the whole secret. That's the whole thing. It doesn't matter what language you're trying to learn. If you want to speak fluently, you should learn that language in that language. And I think probably the only frustrating thing is like I don't really know who teaches like that, who has like a set standard system for different languages. This is what I'm trying to build in English. So like I'm starting, most of the people that I help now are adult English learners who know a lot of English but still struggle to speak. And so I'm helping them using Fluent for Life get to that fluent level. But I wanted to start at the beginning to really help anybody learn, and that's what Frederick is. So Frederick is the first app in the series that will continue on in different apps and then go up to like through grammar and other things. But the whole point, the reason I'm called English Anyone is because I want to make a system that anybody can use. So a lot of people, there's like, in Japan specifically, there's basically English lessons for Japanese learners, when that's really a waste of time. You shouldn't have English lessons for Japanese learners or English lessons for people who speak Spanish. It's just learn English in English. And so if everybody can use that same system, then again, it's much easier for everybody to learn, and there's really just one system everybody can use. So if you're trying to go from intermediate to fluent, get Fluent for Life, and if you're just starting out, or if you have kids and you're trying to help them learn the English language all in English, give them Frederick. This is really the best thing you can give them because it's, number one, going to teach them all in English, and number two, it will let them discover the language for themselves. That's really the highest level where you figure out things for yourself rather than a teacher telling you what they are. So that's the best thing you can do. All right. Tagash says, and Suene from Brazil. All right. So Tagash says, thanks a lot for your live. I've joined your site for 3 months and it's fun for me. So you would say fun for me. But glad to hear it from Japan. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. Ganbatte kudasai. Dekiru ne. All right, but your English is already good. You will learn more about things like, especially, I don't know if you are a Fluent for Life member or not, but if you spend really a lot of time focusing, listening to the way I speak and looking at the different examples in lessons, you will hear these things. It will smooth your pronunciation. It will fix your grammar mistakes automatically. You will say, like, that's good for me. Like, boku ni ne. Like, it's like a good thing for me. And so you will see, again, the different examples of how things are learning or what natives would say, but for that situation, it's important. Like people would say, what about like what's the difference between like for me and like to me? But you should not learn the language this way. Like natives don't think about like for me versus to me. What they're thinking is, in this situation we use this, or in this situation we use that. So like if I often have to teach this way because this is how people like have learned for so many years. But like you would think about like, to me, like if I'm talking about myself, like that's like a present, like, it's coming to me. I'm talking about myself. All right. I don't even want to like go into things and have it confuse people. But the point is that like, yes, if you're looking at like just the difference between like 4 versus 2, rather than looking at these, it's really looking at them for particular situations. So like how would we use, like if I'm going to talk about like giving someone a present, I would say this is a present for you. But I can also talk about like it's kind of like for your benefit. But I can also talk about the direction of something like it's going to you. So I'm giving you a present. All right. So it's for you, meaning like it's something that's going to help you in some way. But I'm also talking about the direction it's moving, like it's moving to you. All right. But the important thing here is not to try to look at like a word like for and learn all the different meanings of it. You're just going to confuse yourself, and natives will never answer a question like that. So if you say to someone, how do you use the word for? How do you use the word for? The first thing a native will do is they will pause for a minute and they will think, okay, when do I use for? When do I say that? And they might say, oh, okay, like, well, here's something for you. Or like this marker is good for writing. So I wouldn't say good to writing, it's good for, like for the purpose of that thing. But the point is you're thinking about situations. Natives are always thinking about vocabulary in situations. Okay? All right, glad to hear it. So yes, so go back. So I spent a lot of time thinking about vocabulary in this way because if you don't understand that, then I'm a bad teacher. It's my fault if you don't understand something. That's the whole point of a teacher. The teacher is not just supposed to give you information. It's to actually help you understand that and feel confident about using it. All right, now, of course, a whole bunch of people come with more comments over here. All right. All right, American English style. Again, Canadian English is the same English from the United States. Yes, it's basically the same. Pronunciation might be a little bit different, and there are, I'm sure, some maybe expressions or something that are a little bit different, but basically the language is the same. Ham says, wow, amazing. I find you live class. Yes, find my live class. Welcome to the live class. Thanks for the excellent class. Glad to hear it. Hope, let's see, is giving me a picture of maybe, is that a dog? Like, whoop, and a looks like a cat or something in a box. It's amazing the kind of emojis that are around and available now. When I was young, I feel bad, I'm like 40 years old now, but when I was a kid, it was just like a smiley face or a sad face, but now people have all kinds of amazing stuff. Yes, so Hope says, you are good for me. Yes. So I can also be good to you. Think about that. So if I'm good for you, it's like I'm like positive and beneficial. I'm helpful for you. But to be good to you, it means I also treat you well. So again, you can look at something like to be good for and good to, and we're not trying to look at just the vocabulary. We're looking at the situation that we use these things in. And so really focus on something until you understand that. All right. I really appreciate your honesty, says Helen. Yes, it's my pleasure. Yes, I know I'm not for everybody. Not like, not everybody will appreciate learning the way I teach. Maybe some people still just like learning grammar or whatever. So I'm looking for people who want to enjoy learning English and actually want to speak, and those are the people I help. Maya says, I understand English, but my grammar is not good. Again, the reason for that, as I explained earlier in this video, is that you just don't understand it like a native. So instead of trying to memorize grammar rules, you should be looking at situations, and then really that's how you understand things much more easily. Let's see, Yacor. Some people say that speaking is the best way to learn a language. Others say that watching TV or listening to music is the best way. Everyone gives us different methods. What do you think about it? Yeah. So I know it's basically like a, number one, I would listen to anybody who speaks a second language already, like listen to that person. So if they're just giving you advice and they don't speak a second language already, then they probably don't know what they're talking about. But the other thing I would say is that like if you look at how kids learn, so number one, I don't know, just if I'm going to give you my argument for this, like the reasons to do this. So number one, So how do children learn their native language? And what does research say? Number 3. I know people want me to write more clearly, but I'm just trying to do this quickly. Is your way working? So it really should be a very simple process for people to judge different methods. So as an example, I'm going to look at these 3 questions. How did children learn a language? So number 1, they're not learning by reading or writing or trying to study textbooks. The only thing they can do is get understandable messages in their native language. So if you look at anybody around the world, so I was talking with Japanese parents yesterday, I said, when you're teaching Japanese to your Japanese children, do you use Chinese? And they looked at me like I was crazy. I said, well, of course, you don't use Chinese to teach Japanese children Japanese, okay? The point is you're learning everything all in the language. So how do children learn the language? So we know children, like, they're going to get lots of input from, movies or things like that. But the basic idea is that if children are learning in a way, like, you should be learning that way too, all right? So number 2, what does the research say? Now, research, same thing like I just talked about the brain research at the beginning of this video, and it proves the same thing I've been saying for many years, which is that if you're learning through your native language, so if you're learning English through your native language, then of course you're going to struggle to try to repeat or to use that information if you have to translate or think about grammar rules and that kind of thing when you speak. So again, children don't learn another language through their native language. They just learn it all. That's the only way you can teach a child, okay? That's the only way you can teach a child. So I have to make the language understandable when I'm teaching my own children, okay? I can't use another language because there's only one language, all right? So what does the research say? Research says the same thing, that if you want to learn and actually speak, then you should learn it as a native the same way children are learning. And this just means you're understanding the language in that language. And then number 3, it's really the most basic question, is your way working for you? So if you do something, like let's say you write or you read or you watch movies or whatever, if that's working for you, then great, keep doing it. There's nothing wrong with that. But the problem is most people will keep doing a way that is not working for them. Okay. Yes. I think I didn't answer that. Yes, I will save this video. I save all of these live videos after they're finished. So again, is your way working? So if you are trying to learn, like let's say you were doing the second language approach and you were practicing grammar and you were reading textbooks and you were trying to do all that, if that's helping you speak, great. But most of the people watching my videos, that's not working for them. So like if you're doing something like that, you should stop doing that and then do something different, okay? So remember, just ask yourself these basic questions when you're trying to compare different methods or what people should be doing, because usually people they're kind of looking at what kids do and they say, okay, kids are watching movies, so I should watch a movie too. And yes, that's kind of true, but really like kids already have a really strong foundation for understanding grammar or pronunciation or listening, all of these different things, like because they learned everything all in English, all right? And they also watch a movie like 20 times. So each time they're watching it, they will learn something new. So if you go back and watch this video again, most people will not. Most people will just watch this video one time and then go off and do something different. Hopefully they will learn something. That's why I repeat myself a lot in videos, because I know some people come in late or they don't watch the whole thing or whatever. But the message gets in there. So remember, think about how do children learn and just do that. Like if children get fluent, and all children get fluent in their first language, it like without exception, unless you don't have a mouth or something like that. And then what does the research say? The research says, yes, you should learn in the same way. And then is your way working or not? So if what you are doing is working, great, and keep using it. If it is not working for you, then stop. The reason I teach the way I do is because my way was not working for me. The second language approach was helping me learn. I knew vocabulary. I could like read and write some things, but I wasn't able to have actual conversations. So if the goal is conversations, that's where you get this. All right, now you guys give me even more comments over here. What time is it? All right, I got a little bit of time left. All right, it is good to have fun with English. Yes, that is true. If I learn from Frederick, can I then learn the British accent? We don't have the British accent yet in Frederick. I'd like to put in different languages in the future, but it's American English. It's my pronunciation, me doing all the voice in there so far. But yes, if you want to have like just understanding pronunciation, it will help you understand British speakers as well, because there are not a lot of major differences in how we speak. There's some, but still, even people going through Frederick in the United Kingdom or Australia or Canada, they're still improving their pronunciation. All right, Gansham, let's see. Yesterday I watched your conversation with your student, Fabiana from Brazil. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm glad to hear it. Let's see. What time is it there? It is about 11:30 a.m. Yeah, so Takashi says, yes, those methods don't work. Yeah. And again, maybe some people really like learning the second way. You probably shouldn't be watching my channel. This is going to be a waste of your time, I think. Samir says, I am so thankful to you for all of your efforts in giving us these pieces of advice for learning, advice on learning English. Yeah, and so you did like an excellent use of using those prepositions there as well. So thankful to you for all of the efforts. And again, those are the kinds of things that everybody can learn how to do when they just see lots of examples. So I have a drug use problem. Nevertheless, I spent a lot of time trying to understand how native speakers... Wait, you have a drug use problem and you're trying to understand how natives speak? Can acquisitions... I don't understand the connection there. But yeah, I mean, even you know, people are using drugs or whatever. All kinds of people are learning English, if that's what you're meaning. Let's see, Hader says, there are many situations that exist in the language, for example, about daily life, but I do not know what I should learn. Each situation has many choices that must be learned. All right, Hader, remember, don't overthink this. Be simple. Think about what do you actually encounter in your daily life. Like most people, it's like, hey, how's the weather? How is the family? You know, how is work? And they're just talking about a few basic things. Like your life, like most people, it's probably like very simple. I say hello to the same people, talk about the same kinds of things, and so you actually get very, it's really like a very simple process of just thinking about when you actually use the language in your everyday life. Do you understand New Zealand accent? Yes, I do. We actually have so in Fluent for Life, we cover British English, New Zealand English, Australian English. It's all in the program. Hader says, children take a lot of time to learn. Will we also learn slowly in the same way, even though we understand better? No, the reason you can actually learn much faster than a child is because, number one, you actually are motivated to learn. And number two, you can control what you learn. So children are just learning whatever, you know, their parents are telling them. But you can actually decide, okay, I want to learn this, and I'm going to focus on this and actually get fluent much faster. So what I do, like what I do in Frederick, you can actually get fluent in like pronunciation, listening, a lot of the grammar in the program as well, in like a week of using the program, while most kids would take maybe a few years in regular school to go through that same information. So this is why organization is so important for learning. You don't want to just like try to learn it the same way natives do. It's actually much faster to do these things in a systematic way. So that's why, like what I do for Fluent for Life, it's not just about like some random situation. We really want to focus on the things that people are really using in everyday life, and then really focus on them and learn them systematically, so you become fluent in them very quickly. This is why you get fluent in each lesson set in 30 days. That's about how long it takes for people to get kind of the habit of doing something. And each lesson set, as you go through that, your fluency builds each time you're learning a new lesson. So you will remember some information from previous lesson sets as you learn new things, and your fluency builds. It compounds each time you're learning as you're going through the different sets. And so again, like having to learn like a child doesn't mean like learning exactly in the same way. It just means you're understanding things. So you can benefit from the way children learn, but also you have the ability to learn like an adult, which is really powerful. Hader says, all right, Frederick is very awesome. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, I'm glad to hear you like it. If you do like Frederick, please leave a review. We're trying to get more people to try the app. And because it's a new way of learning, people are a little like, well, I don't know if this will work for me or not. So let them know. If it works for you, then please leave us a review and share the app. All right. Let's see. Thank you very much. In which state do you live? I don't live in the United States. I live in Japan. But I live in the prefecture, which is basically a state of Nagasaki. All right, so I will come to you there soon. All right. Let's see, maybe that's Sahanya. I have to understand native speakers at my work. I can't understand them clearly. How can make me understand them clearly? Can I understand English movies and teachers, but not them at work? Yeah. So again, people like in movies and TV shows, they speak often a bit more clearly than actual native speakers who are using the language. And so what we do in Fluent for Life is we're trying to get you from like kind of movie English and like the kind of clear things you would hear from a teacher, and then get you to the higher level. So it's just lots of exposure to this, but in a systematic way. And the systematic way, that's really the important part about that thing. It's not about listening to different random people. You want to hear like different native speakers saying the same thing. So this really trains you to understand pronunciation the same way natives do. All right. Thank you, teacher, for the lesson. Have a fantastic day. It's my pleasure, Jose. Takash says, your English is very clear. I can get much benefit from that. Yes, so I am speaking intentionally, clearly to help people understand, but I want to get people kind of from where I am up to the native level. And so this is why we have all these different native speakers, many of whom who do not speak as clearly as I do. All right. I love Japan. Another cat in the box. All right. I think that is a good place to stop, though, because now I'm really going to lose my voice, and you guys are going to keep me here longer again. You guys with your comments and things. I do appreciate everybody joining me here, and hopefully the review I've given you has helped you understand a little bit more about how to get fluent. But the basic idea is just do what kids do, but in a systematic way. And you can obviously get fluent much faster than children do, even in their native language, just by learning that way. So you have the power as an adult to learn like a child, but in a systematic way. So it's much faster than most people expect. All right, have a fantastic day. If you have liked this, do like the video, share it with other people who are also struggling, people who know a lot of English, but still they don't really know how to get fluent, and they just need someone to explain more about them. What does sloppy writing mean? This is sloppy writing. It's just messy, messy writing. You can also talk about sloppy as in like you see some examples of something being like, you know, messy or like unclean in some way, sloppy. All right, this guy has a phenomenal. Phenomenal, we spell that with a PH actually, but thank you very much. So PH, phenomenal. And big thanks to you. Yes, so have a fantastic day. When will we meet you two again? So probably next week, I think. I will probably do another live video, maybe. Actually, I'll probably be live maybe on Instagram on Friday, I think. A lazy eye. Yeah, lazy eye. Google that, and you can see an example. It's much better than me like showing you what a lazy eye looks like. But if you do a Google image search for lazy eye, you will see lots of examples. All right, have a fantastic day. If you'd like to learn more about Frederick or Fluent for Life, just click on the links, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.